Cohen had also brought with him a letter for Paul Brunton, who was staying in Ramanasramam at that time. As he went in search of Brunton to hand him the letter, he saw a Westerner seated at a table reading a book in one of the rooms. Thinking this was Brunton, he greeted him. "Mr. Brunton, good morning." The Westerner replied, "I am not Paul Brunton. I am Major A.W. Chadwick." Chadwick and Cohen became friends instantaneously. Chadwick continued, "Paul Brunton has gone away. He will return in 2 days." When Paul Brunton came back, Cohen had a beautiful satsang with him and Chadwick, talking for hours about the master and trying to get some of their doubts clarified. Now, Paul Brunton was also Jewish and an intellectual, like Cohen. This, of course, resulted, as it usually does, in heated discussions. That day, the topic was celibacy. Paul Brunton did not believe in celibacy. However, Cohen maintained that it was vital for a spiritual seeker. He was convinced that for seekers, practices like sattvic food, celibacy, and satsang were all helpful. Brunton was unmoved. Then Chadwick told them, "Why are you going on arguing? Let us go and ask Bhagavan." They went to Bhagavan, and Chadwick asked him, "Bhagavan, is brahmacharya, celibacy, necessary for spiritual seekers?" Bhagavan's method of answering was never just to solve the problem. His answers were always focused on dissolving it. He replied, "To remain unmoved in Brahman is brahmacharya." The very word brahmacharya indicates that you should not move away from Brahman. So staying unmoved in the I am is very essential for seekers. This answer of Bhagavan, which led to instantaneous dissolution of the problem, made Cohen feel that he must study all the works of Bhagavan. He stayed in the ashram, became a permanent resident, and started studying all the books of Bhagavan. What he especially liked about Ramanasramam was that it was free from any form of control. Nobody was forced to attend meetings, classes, bhajans, or rituals. The absolute freedom given to the seeker by the institution captivated Cohen's heart. When he turned to Bhagavan, Bhagavan too gave absolute freedom. There were no instructions from Bhagavan such as, "This should be done, this should not be done, this is more important, this is less important." There was none of that for the simple reason that Bhagavan knew that each person knows what is best for him, and no one else could know it better. Cohen was very much attracted to the ashram, but even more to Bhagavan, who was free from all forms of control. He has said, Bhagavan was the most liberal of gurus. At no time did he feel the need to form rules and regulations to control the lives of his disciples. Neither did he believe in a common enforced discipline, because he himself had attained the highest without them, and had discovered the self-evident truth within himself. It was his experience that at the right time, self-realization surges up from within, by a free impulse, like the budding and blossoming of a flower. At that time, Cohen was staying in the ashram's common guest room. As a serious seeker, he felt he needed solitude for his sadhana, which the crowded room could not offer. He went to Bhagavan and asked, "Bhagavan, may I stay in a hut outside the ashram to pursue my sadhana?" Getting an affirmative answer from Bhagavan, he had a hut built in Palakotu. Since Cohen was a chronic asthma patient, Bhagavan took care that he should not go into a wet hut by advising him, "Wait for it to dry up." Cohen told me he often wondered how Bhagavan knew that he was an asthma patient. For the housewarming ceremony of his hut, Cohen invited Bhagavan and the other devotees. When Bhagavan entered Cohen's hut, he told him, "Do not put a chair for me or anything." Then he sat on a mat on the floor along with all the others. After the ceremony, when Bhagavan was leaving, Cohen followed him and, full of emotion, prayed to him, "Bhagavan, you have given a home for this body. Will you please give me an eternal home for my soul also? It is only for this that I have come here, severing all ties with family and worldly affairs." Bhagavan kept walking, and after a little time, turned to him and said, "Cohen, your firm conviction brought you here. Where is the room for doubt?" Cohen's only income was the meager interest that he was getting from his savings of 7,000 rupees. While living in his hut at Palakotu, he would cook a little rice and vegetable every morning, after which he would go to the ashram to be with Bhagavan. He would come back only for his lunch. Cohen told me that all through his life he had never been attracted to variety in food. He ate only to appease his hunger, not his palate. One day, a wealthy man happened to offer an extensive and huge feast in Ramanasramam. Cohen was not invited for that. When he went to his hut that day to have his meager meal, for the first time in his life he was troubled about food. Cohen told me, "I never thought about food any time before or after, but on that day I was suffering. They were all eating such rich food there, and here I was eating this meager meal." When Bhagavan passed by his hut that afternoon, he asked Cohen whether he had eaten his lunch, something he had never done before. Cohen replied that he had eaten just a little rice and vegetable. To which Bhagavan replied, "Rice and vegetable, that is very good. When I was in Virupaksha cave, for days there would be no food. On some days, somebody would bring some rice. I would add water to the cooked rice and then eat it without salt." Cohen told me, "After that day, not even once was I distracted by any thought of food." He added, "That's the advantage when you stay with the master. Every defect is rooted out once and for all." Living with a master is itself a spiritual sadhana. He was with Bhagavan the whole day, and sometimes in the nights too. He would say, when staying with the master, you have to imbibe his spiritual energy. In the night, when only a few of the serious seekers were around him, Bhagavan would tell us about the lives of ancient saints, sages, and mythological stories. But whether Bhagavan talked or was silent, his presence was surcharged with spiritual energy, and we loved to look at him and soak in that spiritual energy. He once said that such proximity to the master was very rewarding in that stage of his sadhana. When I asked him how this was so, he replied, "It healed those wounds I had from wasting energy on foolish expectations and upholding false values and hollow ideals." Bhagavan was pouring his grace on me. I was suddenly gripped by an overwhelming urge to surrender unreservedly to him to guide me in my spiritual hunger, abandoning all the methods I had previously followed and all the beliefs I had built my hopes on. That very moment, I passed on my fate and all that I was to the sacred hands of my master, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi.